Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on, YouTube? Diggy546. Welcome back to the Dumpster Fire. And today, I wanted to talk about the Giants quarterback situation because whatever they do in the draft, they are going to have to address the quarterback position. No one knows what's going to happen in the draft. If we'll get a guy, if we'll not get a guy that we want. Who knows? The Giants could just not draft a guy into the third or fourth round. We don't know. So, I think there are only a couple of options. I'm probably going to make videos eventually about all of the options that I think are the best, and maybe I'll make one just comparing them. But for now, I think the best option besides, going out and signing somebody, because I think there are a couple of guys that are on the trade block. Like Sam Darnold is probably going to get franchise tagged and then traded. Or maybe they'll just let him walk. But I think the franchise tag's pretty expensive. They're probably going to let him walk. But anyway, looking at trades this year for quarterbacks, because I would say that the market isn't really that great. And you look at Justin Fields, I'm sure there are a couple of teams who want to bring in Justin Fields on a low cost contract. And I'm pretty sure that Kirk Cousins is going to have to be traded for. So when you look at quarterbacks that need to be traded for, I think Geno Smith has to be at the top of the list. I think he has to be at the top of the list. And I know some people are already saying, like, we don't want Geno Smith here. He was the guy that Eli got benched for. Horrible memories. He was here on the Jets and he couldn't perform. Can he step up in a bigger market? And those are all valid questions. But something I'll ask you is, Geno Smith is going to get paid, I think, what, $40 million this year. The Seahawks will have to take part of that dead cap hit. So if we were to trade for him, I think we're going to have to pay him less than $30 million. He's a guy that over the past couple of years, let me pull it up to make sure. Over the past couple of years, Geno Smith has thrown for 4,200 yards, 3,600 yards, and 4,300 yards. And last year, he missed some time in 2023. So he has thrown for, again, over 4,000 yards in his 2 full seasons. He's thrown for over 20 touchdowns in his last 2 seasons. And this is a team to where 20 touchdowns is a high bar. 4,000 yards never happens here in New York since Eli Manning left. And there would just be a lot more big plays. You would allow Brian Dable, for those who still want Brian Dable to have a chance to work with somebody competent. It's proof. Geno Smith has thrown for over 4,000 yards, basically 3 straight years if he had been able to stay healthy. If he's able to do that with, the guys in Seattle, and if Brian Dable's a big guru, then he should be able to do it here. 21 touchdowns this year, 15 interceptions. So kind of a down year. Of course, with those interceptions, you get some tips and everything, but still kind of a down year, but also 70% completion percentage. But really what makes me really lean into that is 2022, 69 completion percentage, 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And I think he still has that. He is not an ancient quarterback by any means. He should not be on a decline. And again, I think we can get this guy for not much. I mean, if you give up a 2nd-round pick for Geno Smith or a 3rd-round pick, because they don't want to pay him. And if the Seahawks don't want to pay him, a ton of other teams might not want to pay him. So, maybe you'd end up having to give up a 2nd-round pick. But I think you give that pick up. Brian Dable is going to get his opportunity to work with the guy. You got Malik Neighbors here. He has JSN on the Seahawks. He has Metcalf. He has Lockett. So he's got a nice receiving core. So you got Malik Neighbors here. Try to keep Darius Slayton. If not, go out and get another receiver. Maybe you don't get a quarterback this year. So you take Travis Hunter. Or maybe you trade back and you take Luther Burden or Ted McMillan. Get another receiver in here that you feel great about, whether that be in the 2nd round, 1st round, 3rd round, and free agency. There are a lot of options. Build around him. Continue to bolster that offensive line and see what you got. See what you got. Because if Geno Smith can get here and have a 30-plus touchdown season and look great, then I think that would afford Dable a couple more years to have him as a bridge quarterback. If it's 2-3 years as another bridge quarterback, and you just let him play out and get really top 12 quarterback play, which is what he really provides when he's on. I think that's a no-brainer because if he comes here and he wilts under the New York sun, if he comes here and he just kind of falls apart, then at that point you can say, well, guess what? I'm paying him 20 something million this year. I gave up a conditional pick. Maybe it's a conditional one. Uh, let's just throw that away. Let's fire Dable. Let's fire Shane. Let's get Geno Smith out of here. And let's bring in a new coach, a new GM, and a new quarterback. I think that makes a ton of sense. You bring all of them in, and then you get all of them out of here if they can't make things work. So that really makes a ton of sense to me. I don't know about you all, but Geno Smith is a guy that, of course, has to be mentally tough at this point because for him to be in the situation he was in it for the Jets, where he got he got like hit by a guy and broke his jaw, and that basically ended his Jets career. And he goes to the Giants, and everybody hates him on the Giants because he's the guy that came in for Eli. And then he bounces around team to team to team, and then he finally emerges. I think that he will be at the very worst, a perfect mentor for whatever rookie quarterback we draft. Um, he'll be ready to go if he has to be the starter, and most likely, even if we take a rookie that we feel good about, he's going to be the starter for a couple of games at the least. Um, say we draft Shador Sanders. Shador's probably going to sit for at least, if not the full season, then at least half the season. He will be a great guy to learn from. Geno will be. Um, Also, if we take a guy like Jackson Dart, if we take a guy like Milrow who needs to develop, who for some, I don't know why Milrow decided to come out. Film breakdown on him coming soon, but I have no idea why he decided to come out this year. But say we take a guy like Milrow, say we take a guy like Jackson Dart, say we take a guy like Will Johnson, or any of these quarterbacks that need some seasoning, they need a lot of seasoning. If we take any of these guys, Geno Smith, I think, is a great quarterback to learn behind. He's a guy that knows a ton of football, that has been a backup, that is humble. Now, the only issue is if Geno got here, would he hold out? Would he say, I'm not playing for any new team until I get a new contract? Would that happen? Would the Seahawks ask for multiple first round picks? I doubt that, but would they ask for our first round pick this year? Because that's not happening. That's not happening. So we may have to give up a second and a fourth. And then it's like, do you want to give up a second and a fourth for a guy that, even though he's played very well, do you think Geno Smith can win a Super Bowl? Because if not, and you're giving up a second round pick, you're giving up a fourth round pick in a year that you're rebuilding, that you need talent, and you're not filling out your roster with those two players, and you could possibly throw those picks away by letting Geno walk the next year. So the price is going to be very, very important. What he asks for, what his conditions are, if he's ready to go out and audition, that's a perfect situation. If he wants some security and whatever team he goes to, he wants a long term deal, I don't think that would work. Now, I don't think he's going to ask for a long term deal because if you look at how his career has gone, a lot of people still don't think a ton of him as a guy that, we want to give $50 million to. So a lot of people aren't really thinking that. And then also when you look at his latest season, he threw for 21 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. So his worst season pretty much out of the three that he's had. And I don't think that will be enough ammunition for him to come in and say, I need a long-term deal. I think this next season is going to be his prove it season. He's going to want to go to a team where he believes that he can really succeed. He can ball out. So that's going to mean that we're going to have to sell him and his agent on the wide receivers that we have, us improving the offensive line. And of course, he's going to have to believe in Brian Dable. So those are some of the things that could go wrong. But I think if everything aligns right, then Geno Smith is the perfect option if we want to go after him in a trade.